Wellbeing for Devs series, 9 antipatterns that can happen in remote work and how to correct them. When we talk about remote work, we normally hear radical positions that tell us that remote work doesn't work at all, or on the contrary, that everything works perfectly. Considering that, in this new installment of our Wellbeing for Devs series, we propose to mention some of the antipatterns of remote work and how to avoid them to be successful. So let's get started. 1. Long and unproductive meetings. How many times have we been in remote meetings that stretch out meaninglessly, where there is no continuous participation, they are one way, and that could have been an email? Surely if we are developers we have had to suffer this many times in remote work, but it is not entirely the fault of the person who organizes the meeting, because if we consider the other side, there are several behaviors from developers that do not help at all. For example, there are devs who will not contribute to the meeting but still accept it and remain there all the time, or there are those who, when faced with any question, immerse themselves in technical details without really making themselves understood, among many others. Recommendation. Think twice if you are going to call group meetings. Is it really important? Who should really attend? And if you were called, think carefully about what you are going to contribute before accepting. 2. Unclear and misaligned priorities. Another quite frequent antipattern is where the work team or some of its members find out late, for example, in the middle of a sprint, that the priority of the stakeholders is really another and an adaptation must be made, on the go and quickly, which usually doesn't end well. Recommendation. Improve communication across all levels, and made really visible the priorities. There are many online tools available such as Profit for OKR tracking or Jira for backlog tracking. 3. No feedback from the leader. This is a common antipattern in remote work. We know for example cases where the developers don't get their code accepted in the pull request, and the task is reassigned without receiving adequate feedback to know what they really did wrong. It is worth mentioning that in remote work it is even more necessary to have fluid communication with your leader and team, since the possibilities of more informal communication are fewer. Sometimes, just venting your frustrations with someone in a brief meeting could be valuable. Recommendations. Schedule feedback sessions with your leader, increase direct communication with leaders, and do not hide problems or frustrations that may arise. 4. Using messaging apps as control mechanisms. Another common antipattern in companies implementing remote work is to use tools such as WhatsApp, Telegram, etc. to watch over people, without any organization. Expecting an always-on-call attitude, and to deal with varied work issues when these tools normally have more personal use. The above causes exhaustion, reprocessing, it's not quite fun looking for something hidden in hundreds of messages, and anxiety, for not missing a leader's message, inside the work teams. Recommendation. Use tools designed for work such as Slack or Microsoft Teams and implement groups, channels, and meetings segregation to avoid message cluttering. 5. Not accounting for multicultural teams. This antipattern relates to how companies may have all their processes, guides, standards, and even expressions geared towards one location, in particular, producing that remote workers from other cities or countries feel left aside, generating miscommunication problems. Recommendation. Try to use a standard language, with fewer local expressions or words, and define strategies to integrate remote workers from other locations with online activities or meetings that allow for informal conversations and exchange of experiences. 6. Being on calls all the time. On many occasions, companies understand productivity as a continuous activity when it is the opposite. To be productive, the brain requires spaces of silence and concentration that are obtained with asynchronous work. If there is too much synchronous work in the day, such as calls, there is no space to do the rest of the work and team members usually get burnout. Recommendation. In remote work, most of the time should be distributed in asynchronous tasks. 7. Not knowing how to communicate correctly. Nowadays chats and prompts are used more than emails and voice calls, and this has made people forget how to write or talk properly. Today in the work environment we see how emails or chat messages are ambiguous, incomplete, and difficult to understand, and how developers, in general, are sometimes unable to express themselves correctly in an online meeting because those skills were not cultivated properly. Recommendation. Give feedback and ask for feedback, and inspire teams to read more, especially longer readings to increase vocabulary and abstraction. Also, suggest to them to lead meetings more often to improve speaking skills. 8. Send awkward emails. With remote work, There is more interaction on the written channels such as email, and one antipattern that we have seen is an increase in emails that are overly long, or that include a lot of people, usually in more leadership roles that are unnecessary to include, and whose purpose is to blame or put on the spot someone in particular, without discussing the issue or warning that such an email is going to be sent, resulting in forwards and replies that clutter everyone's inbox without a clear solution. Recommendation: don't respond instinctively to unclear emails and encourage in your teams a sense of trust and politeness in online communications by setting clear examples. 9. Believing that remote work works equally for everyone. Nowadays we see companies with lots of young developers struggling with remote work because remote work is more difficult when you are just beginning your career. To be successful in remote work is necessary to have authority and trust over your work. So if you are a junior, to be successful in remote work will require a lot more dedication, mentoring and feedback. Recommendation: with remote work, companies should have an excellent onboarding process, especially for those younger ones with no previous experience with remote work or work in general, and pair these younger developers with senior ones to have more direct mentorship communication. So, if you are interested in knowing more about these topics, you have to follow our new content where we will be bringing additional perspectives. Until next time.